The year is 2026. Look around. We are living in a world where the physical and the digital have finally bled into one. Two titanic universes dominate our collective imagination. One is a jagged, raw landscape of infinite cubes, the other, a smooth, neon-drenched metropolis reaching for the clouds. As I hold this blue gemstone, this pixelated diamond, I realize it was never just a piece of loot. It was the spark of a revolution. It all started in a quiet, rain-streaked bedroom in Stockholm back in 2009. I remember watching a lone programmer, a man with a vision no one else could see yet, staring into the flickering blue glow of a monitor. He wasn't just writing code, he was sketching the first lines of a new reality. He called it Cave Game. And at that moment, it was nothing more than 3 types of blocks and a deafening silence. He gave me a world that was perfectly flat, a blank green grid under a turquoise sky. I remember the weight of the first block of dirt I placed. In that simple click, I realized for the first time that I wasn't just playing a game, I was the architect. I was the one in control. The grid stretched to infinity, waiting for me to decide what it would become. Inside a primitive wooden hut, I built my first workbench. There was magic in that 3x3 grid. I felt it as I carefully arranged sticks and stones, watching them transform into tools. It wasn't just crafting, it was a primal act of creation, a digital alchemy that turned raw materials into the keys to a kingdom. We were no longer just survivors, we were makers. But when the sun dipped below the horizon, the silence turned into a threat. I'll never forget the sound of water dripping in those deep, charcoal-sketched caves, or the feeling of pure terror when I realized I wasn't alone in the shadows. The darkness held a weight that forced us to build, to hide, and to survive against things we couldn't yet name. Then, out of a glitch in the code, a silent icon emerged, a green pixelated nightmare with hollow eyes. The creeper didn't just haunt my world, it became a symbol of the fear and beauty that only this blocky universe could offer. One hiss was enough to make the hearts of millions beat faster, a mistake that accidentally became a legend. By 2010, the secret was out. YouTube became our global stage as a generation was born, screaming in joy at every discovery. We weren't playing in isolation anymore, we were building a global culture, one upload at a time, connecting through the language of blocks. Deep inside the mountains, I watched red dust begin to pulse like a digital heartbeat. A single flip of a stone lever, a spark of energy, and suddenly, my static world was alive. We moved from building houses to building computers, logic gates, and infinite machines. We weren't just architects now, we were engineers of the impossible. I built fortresses that touched the clouds, stone by stone. Clad in the blue fire of diamond armor, I stood on the highest parapets, looking down at a kingdom that I had willed into existence. It was a golden age of building, where our only limit was the reach of our own imagination. Then came the void. The end. A black dimension of obsidian pillars and purple static. I faced the great dragon, a test of fire and wings, and realized that even the end of the world was just another gateway. To beat the dragon wasn't to finish the game, it was to prove that we were ready for something even bigger. The corporate giants finally looked down from their mirrored glass skyscrapers. A global software empire took the keys, and as the original creator walked away into a golden sunset with a simple backpack, the world held its breath. We wondered if the soul of our world would survive the transition from an indie dream to a multi-billion-dollar empire. But thousands of miles away in California, a different dream was already 20 years deep. While I was building with cubes, another visionary was sketching a world driven not by blocks but by the laws of physics and the power of social connection. This was a parallel evolution, a different kind of digital spark. It began with simple shapes and a digital void. I remember the burst of energy when the first red and white logo flickered to life. These weren't just blocks. They were the seeds of a platform designed to let us build our own games. It wasn't a single experience, it was an engine for human creativity. The gray grid of the base plate was our blank canvas. I saw the first yellow-headed avatars waving back at me, smiling in a vast, empty world that was waiting for us to fill it. It felt surreal, a minimalist digital space where the social bond was just as important as the structures we built. The engine became our hammer and saw. I watched teenagers in their bedrooms typing rows of green code, turning a blank screen into rotating wheels and functioning cities. The line between player and developer finally erased itself. We were no longer just playing games. We were launching them. Chaos followed, and it was beautiful. I ran from falling meteorites and felt the rush of a tidal wave as digital disasters tested our will. We weren't just survivors. We were a community forged in the fire of shared chaos, learning how to thrive in a world where the rules could change in an instant. There was joy in that chaos, too. I remember the heat of the pizza ovens and the laughter of a community working together. A simple box of pizza became a symbol of connection. We found that the most complex things we could build weren't buildings, but friendships. An economy was born out of thin air. Golden coins flew through my screen as I traded for wings of light and crowns of gold. In this world, status wasn't about where you were born. It was about what you created. Our avatars became our truest self-expression, but every light casts a shadow. I heard the whispers of ghosts in the fog, Herobrine, and the silent gray figures watching from the edges of the map. These legends became part of our blood, a digital mythology that proved even in a world made of code, there is still room for the unexplained. The simple blocks evolved into neon-drenched cities. I walked through cyberpunk streets, wearing digital fashion that looked as sharp as any high-end runway. The metaverse was no longer a science fiction dream. It was my backyard, vibrant and alive with pink and teal light. I stood in a crowd of thousands, feeling the vibration of a holographic concert. As the laser lights cut through the night, I looked at the faces around me and felt the wonder of a truly connected humanity. Millions of people, miles apart, yet we were all dancing in the same room. The classroom moved inside the screen. I sat at a wooden desk and watched a human heart pulse in 3D. I realized then that we weren't just playing games. We were building the future of how we learn, how we grow, and how we understand the very world we live in. Today, the lines are gone. I see the voxel forest merging with the neon theme park. The square sun and the round sun meet in a single sky. Two worlds, once separate, are now one shared culture. We have moved beyond games into a new era of human existence. I stood on a hill, a blocky hero next to a yellow-headed friend, and looked at the horizon. The future is strapped to our faces, and every time I touch a glowing block, I feel the mesh of the digital and the real. We have crossed the threshold. I see the faces of the founders and the icons of our journey. We are the creators. We are the explorers. We have built a legacy that will outlast the pixels themselves. We are the authors of this digital history. This is the era of the Pixel Titans. But as I look toward the glowing violet portal, I know that a new mystery is waiting. Do you feel it? The shadows are shifting again, and the next chapter is about to begin. The story continues in our next episode. Don't blink and don't get lost in the fog. Thank you for building this world with me. Until next time.
In a Stockholm bedroom, rain traced silent paths down the window. The only light came from a single monitor, where a solitary programmer, Marcus Persson, began placing blocks. Not knowing it, he was laying the first foundation of a world. Each primitive cube was a pixel of a future universe, born from quiet focus and endless, caffeinated nights. Meanwhile, under the Californian sun, a different dream was forming. David Baszucki and Eric Castle weren't building a world, but a laboratory. Their whiteboards were filled with the laws of a new reality, physics, collisions, and digital gravity. Their vision was a universe not of blocks, but of rules, where imagination itself would become the engine. From the Swedish code, life emerged in squares. The first mobs were born from bugs turned into legends. The infamous creeper, a mistaken model of a pig, became a symbol of this unpredictable world. These were not mere enemies. They were the soul of the wilderness, a digital ecosystem learning to breathe. In the Roblox workshop, identity was a playful construct. You weren't born a hero, you built yourself from a palette of geometric parts. A sphere for a head, cylinders for limbs, a persona assembled like a toy. This was the first promise. You are not who you are, but who you choose to build in the moment. And then, the players arrived. They saw not just a game, but a canvas. With pickaxe and planks, they began to sculpt mountains into castles and carve cliffs into cities. The world was no longer just generated, it was authored, block by patient block, a testament to collective will. On the other side, in the first Roblox obstacle courses, a different magic sparked. A player navigated a simple, Yankee course, and upon clearing it, threw their hands up in real triumph. The screen didn't show a grand story, it showed a ladder and a pit. The story was the smile it created in a darkened room. From these twin seeds, giants grew. Not in competition, but in parallel evolution. One, a world of earth and awe, of survival and serene creation. The other, a metropolis of rules and roles, a social engine of a million games. They became the twin pillars of a new digital childhood. Their realms became continents. A global nation of builders and dreamers, logging in from every corner of the planet. Bedroom coders became kings of their own domains. The quiet click of placing a block or publishing a game echoed in a network that now spanned the globe, a silent, persistent revolution. Today, the legacy is not a wall, but a doorway. A generation raised by these titans now carries their language, of blocks and scripts, into the future. They are the architects of new realities, forever remembering the simple truth, that from the humblest of squares, and the simplest of rules, infinite worlds can be built.